Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for attending our Tap into Your Travel Senses virtual travel showcase. My name is Melissa Churchill, and I'm one of the travel advisors in our Dartmouth office. And today we're very happy to have my colleague Trish McPherson and Shirley Rourke from Goway, who's going to be talking all about Australia and New Zealand. I'll go over some housekeeping notes here in a second, but I just have to say I've traveled to Australia and New Zealand. They are absolutely phenomenal destinations. They should be on everybody's bucket list. I have been and I can't wait to go again. So really looking forward to today's presentation. And so just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. We really thank you for joining us today and hope you enjoy the presentation. Just to let everybody know, you are in listen-only mode, so you are muted at the time while we do the presentation. You can ask questions by clicking on the orange arrow in your control panel, and that will submit questions through to our group, which we will cover at the end of the presentation. And if you do ask any questions, if they don't get covered at the end of the presentation, not to worry, we will be answering them afterwards. And also, please feel free to reach out to your CAA travel advisors for any questions as well that you may have. We recommend to watch the presentation in full screen mode just to maximize the enjoyment and see the beautiful pictures of Australia and New Zealand, not to be missed. And the volume on the videos may need a bit of adjusting as they've been recorded at a lower volume than the actual session's volume. So if you're finding it a little bit quiet at all, just make sure to turn up the volume so you can hear us really well. So again, thank you all for joining. I have been to Australia, New Zealand, as mentioned, and absolutely loved it. And this is a picture there of me in front of Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, the other pictures in New Zealand. They are magical destinations. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Trish McPherson, who works in our CAA Halifax office. And I know Trish has been there as well. So Trish?
Thank you very much, Melissa. My name is Trish McPherson. I'm located in the Halifax location on Yonge and Robie. I've been in the travel industry for 33 years and fortunate enough to be with CAA for 24 of those years. And I have had the pleasure of traveling to Australia 3 times and extensively to New Zealand. I did both the North and the South Island, and incredible, absolutely incredible experience. The photo that's up on your screen is a life-changing moment for me. I was able to do the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb to overcome my fear of heights. I know, absolutely fantastic. And the stunning views of the photos below there are of New Zealand. Every time I turned around, it was just another absolutely beautiful sight. And can't say enough about it. Definitely keep it on your bucket list for sure. I would just like to introduce Shirley Rourke. She is a passionate has been passionately in the travel industry and specializes in the South Pacific for over 25 years after working in several sectors of the industry, including education, inbound, retail, and wholesale. She has found a home with Goway for the past 15 years. Shirley has traveled extensively internationally and has enjoyed many trips to the South Pacific for both business and pleasure. Now, her role is as Vice President allows her to fully embrace her passion for all things South Pacific. So, again, introducing Shirley Rourke. Thank you very much, Shirley, and I will leave it up to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you, Trish, and welcome everybody. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us this afternoon as we venture into the wonderful lands down under. The South Pacific is a very special place for me, so I'm happy to share it with you this afternoon. Let's just go to our next slide here. There we go. Oh, sorry. So our agenda here, first we're going to talk about who is Goway, booking with confidence, particularly during this time of COVID, how to get to Australia and New Zealand, the top travel experiences, as well as some deals. Now, first of all, Goway is a privately owned Canadian company. We've been around for just over 50 years. This is our president, Bruce Hodge, and he sits here in the office in Toronto. So we're proudly Canadian. Goway specializes in customized and tailor-made travel to over 101 destinations. We have an office in reservations offices in Sydney, Vancouver, Toronto, and Los Angeles. When you're traveling to Australia and New Zealand, you have the care of our Sydney office in the same time zone as you. Goway heavily invests in consumer protection. So wherever there is consumer protection, we have invested in it so that your funds are 100% protected. In Ontario, we're in TICO. Throughout Canada, it's ACTA. Better Business Bureaus. In the US, it's USTOA. Just to make sure that you're protected through all the various suppliers that you work with. We do have 24/7 customer service. We work with all of the best airlines, and something that is so unique about Goway is our destination specialists. All of our destination specialists only deal with the areas that they specialize in. So when you're dealing with Down Under, my specialists, they've lived and they've traveled there extensively. If you're going to Africa, our Africa specialists have lived and worked there extensively as well. So you're dealing with true specialists when you're dealing with Goway. And these are the different areas that we travel to: Australia and New Zealand, so Down Under, Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe. So that's the Goway family. Booking with confidence, when and where to travel, the financial commitment to travel, and what happens when you do travel with Goway. So both Australia and New Zealand, their borders have sadly been closed since last March. They were very, very strict and conservative about the way that they handled COVID. In Australia, they closed down the local borders, so they couldn't even travel from one state to the other, very similar to what Eastern Canada has done. But as they got COVID under control, their local borders are opening, traveling within Australia, and soon we'll see a bubble open between Australia and New Zealand. As far as an open date, it will depend now on the rollout of vaccines. Qantas has now decided that they will resume their flights in November of 21. So now is the perfect time to start planning your trip for 22. Most people, when they travel to Australia, New Zealand, they book a year out. And in New Zealand in recent years, we had availability issues. So now to start thinking about 22 is actually the perfect time. Financial commitment, we have reduced our deposits to $150 per person. It is refundable up until 30 days prior, the final payment due 30 days prior, and you can do any changes up until 30 days prior. If there becomes an issue that you can't travel because of COVID, we find that the suppliers and the airlines have been working with us really very, very well in the rest of the parts of the world. So we'll expect that to happen in Australia and New Zealand as well. Now, as far as the deposit, this goes for the Goway deposit, but if it's a larger cruise or airline ticket, their terms and conditions would vary a little bit as well. When you do book, you receive the Goway Travel Mate. That includes your dedicated destination specialist to work with you through the entire process of your booking, from your inquiry right straight through to when you get home. As I said, we have 24/7 assistance from anywhere in the world, and the use of our Sydney office. During the planning process, as well as prior to your departure, we have a three-way conference service where you can speak with your CAA representative as well as our destination specialist via phone or Zoom, just so that you're fully comfortable with all of your arrangements. When you arrive at destination, you'll receive a Goway welcome, which is a transfer on arrival and just a briefing on local protocols. Also, when you get back, there'll be a credit for $100 per person for your next trip, or for those friends that you enticed with your social media posts. When it comes to safety for traveling, there will be sanitation of commonly touched areas by all of the tour operators, use of disinfectant foams, particularly in transportation, planes, buses, cars, hotels, requirements of face masks, particularly when flying, social distancing. It will be very, very likely that in order to enter into Australia and New Zealand, that you will require a vaccine. And both countries are very heavily government regulated. So there'll be a lot of regulations by the relevant governments and the tourism bodies of both TICA and TIA in Australia and New Zealand. Now getting there. So major airlines, Air New Zealand, Qantas, Air Canada, fly from Canada to Australia and New Zealand. There's also stopovers that you can do with Hawaiian, American, Fiji Airways, Tahiti. So Tahiti, Fiji, Cook Islands. One of my most favorite destinations, stopovers, is the Cook Islands, a country that has no hotels taller than a coconut tree. Of course you want to go and visit there and relax. One of the things about getting to the South Pacific is that the pricing of the airfares has come down drastically in the last 20 years. I think it's one of the very few things that the prices have actually come down. And it's not as far as you think. It really is a couple of meals, a couple of movies, a snooze, and you're there. You can kind of think of it as a date night. And one thing to remember is the aircraft that you fly the South Pacific is much more comfortable than the charter flights that you fly on going down to the Caribbean. So the economy seats are wider. The space between seats are further apart. Wonderful meal and entertainment. They have premium economy, which is kind of the old school business class. And then they have premium, business premium, which is your lie flat bed while you're traveling across the Pacific. I personally could live in business class. These are the top 10 ideas. A lot of these ideas we have in both Australia and New Zealand. I'm going to focus on Australia because I was only given a short time, and I hope I'm not going to go over my time limit. But we'll talk about some of the top 10 travel ideas. One of our top ideas is our Holidays of a Lifetime. This is Goway's Promise of Something Special. These are fully escorted tours from North America with a Goway guide. So they take care of you from start to finish, a maximum of 24 guests, so it is a small group. The Waltzing Matilda is 20 days. It includes both Australia and New Zealand. In New Zealand, it goes into Auckland. It hits the Waitomo Caves, which is where the it's like a twinkle lights up in a cave. Rotorua, which is where the Maori culture is. The bubbling hot geysers, the thermal areas. And then we take you down to the South Island, to Queenstown, out to Milford Sound, where you cruise those beautiful fjords, and then up to Queenstown. You can do just New Zealand in 9 days, or you can stick with the just Australia, which is 13 days. Once again, very quick going through Australia. Along the bottom, the Waltzing Matilda starts in Melbourne. And one of the great things about Melbourne, it's a beautiful cosmopolitan city, but there's all these little hidden lanes and arcades of bistros and coffee shops and little shops. You'd never know that it existed if you didn't have a tour there. So we take you through those little lanes and arcades. We take you out to Phillip Island to see these beautiful little fairy penguins. Come up the beach every evening at dusk. It's the Penguin Parade. We head up to Adelaide, which is famous for its wine growing area. From here, you have two choices. You can fly off to Kangaroo Island to see some wildlife, or you can jump on the legendary Gone train, an overnight train journey into the outback where you'll see Ayers Rock and the Olgas. We then take you over to Cairns, which is where the Reef and the rainforest is, before we come down to Sydney. So that's one of our top travel ideas for Australia and New Zealand. Another great way to see is locally escorted touring. So there's a variety of different companies that we use. And this is great for regional touring. So if you wanted to travel all the way up the east coast of Sydney, or up the middle, or in New Zealand where you want to travel by land throughout New Zealand, these escorted tours are fabulous because you're being taken care of every step of the way with a driver, a guide, and a lot of these companies as well, the two major companies that we use, they have these freedom of choice dining and freedom of choice touring, which means as you roll into a city center or a region, you actually have a choice of what touring you want to do. And when you go out for dinner, you can choose what restaurants you want to go to. You don't necessarily always have to dine with the group. So it gives you a flexibility as well as having the comfort of a tour director taking care of you. Something that Goway is very famous for is our independent travel ideas. This is where we take your transfers. We give you private transfers on arrival, all the must-see sightseeing, and the accommodation according to what you like, whether it's economy, moderate, first class, small and special, self-contained apartment. So you choose the accommodation, and we give you the must-see sightseeing. With the must-see sightseeing, you can make it small group, or you can turn it into private touring if you like. But these are completely independent. So you can break these apart. We give you these lovely extension ideas so that you can customize any of your trips with Goway to your particular liking. So when you're in Sydney, if you really wanted to, you're a wine lover, you want to go to the Barossa Valley, you can do the Hunter Valley, you can go up and do some wine tasting. If you've always wanted to learn to surf, go down to Bondi and have a surf lesson. So we can completely customize everything that you would like to do. We also have small group touring. This tends to be a little bit more intimate, a little bit more hands-on. You're staying at boutique type accommodation, luxury resorts. There's some gourmet food and wine in these tourings as well. A lot of the time they can be four-wheel drive, and these small group tours can be anywhere from 1 to 22 days with an expert guide and or driver, just for that little extra personalized service. If it's luxury that you enjoy, we have our stays of distinction. This just isn't luxury accommodation. This is luxury accommodation in unique settings. So for example, at Ayers Rock, this is luxury camping with Ayers Rock, Uluru in the background, and it's all personalized touring. At the bottom there, that's Lizard Island, the most northern resort on the Great Barrier Reef. Only 40 passengers can go onto this island, and there's 24 different beaches. You can relax in the rainforest. In New Zealand, we have Azure Lodge, where you actually do a heli tour to Milford Sound. So you're treated very specially, and they're in very special locations. And you can choose, we've put them all together in a variety of different accommodation itineraries, whether it be the ultimate Australia, the ultimate retreat, the ultimate New Zealand, or the ultimate down under, where you're combining Australia and New Zealand. So we've got all the levels of accommodation and touring covered for you. Another great way to see Australia and New Zealand is self-drive. And we are world famous for our self-drives in Australia and New Zealand. They are pre-booked, pre-planned, and proven by our Sydney office. They're put together by our team on the ground in Australia and New Zealand. With your self-drive itinerary, you'll get your co-pilot kit, but you'll get a personalized itinerary as well as a digital app. You can choose your accommodation. You can modify it if you like. And we also include the car rental. We'll always make sure that you have the type of vehicle that you need in order to do that particular journey. So I've just picked a couple of really popular ones in Australia. In New Zealand, there's the North Island, South Island ones as well. These are driving up the coast from Sydney up to Cairns. We recommend 14 days for that particular one. Another popular one is the Melbourne to Adelaide, driving along the beautiful Great Ocean Road and then into Adelaide. Great way to stay in some beautiful Airbnbs or bed and breakfast. There's the four-wheel drive trip from Adelaide up to Darwin for anyone who's adventurous. And Tasmania is a fabulous place. Both Tasmania and New Zealand are fabulous for self-drives as well. And instead of just doing a car rental, you can also do a motorhome where your accommodation is your vehicle. In New Zealand, they actually have free camping where you can just pull off to the side of the road and camp for the night. Or their campgrounds are so well facilitated with facilities for you along the way as well. So great way to see Australia, New Zealand. Railway. Everybody loves train journeys, and Australia has some really famous train journeys. One of the things that I love about train journeys in Australia is that the locals love to take these journeys. So it's a great way to meet Aussies, and you'll probably meet quite a few Kiwis on there as well because they travel back and forth. These train journeys they're epic. You have your cabin where they're seating by day and then berths by night. You have the platinum cabin that goes down to double beds, or the twin, which are upper and lower. And those cabins actually have your toilet facilities and in the cabins as well. The singles are shared at the end of the carriage. One of the most famous train journeys is the Gone. It travels from Darwin up to Adelaide. You can stop or just do the journey up to Alice Springs. They do whistle stops, so you get to see the to get off the train for a little bit on these train journeys. But if you really want to do a tour on a train, there is the Gone Expedition, which is 4 days and 3 nights, and it travels from Adelaide up to Darwin. The other famous train journey is the Indian Pacific. That travels from between Sydney and Perth, and that's 4 days. Combining it with either stopping or traveling to Adelaide is a great idea as well. On that particular train journey, they have the longest stretch of straight railway tracks in the world. The Great Southerner, that runs from Adelaide to Brisbane, or you can do it sectors on that journey as well. One of my most favorite Goway packages is the classic Aussie Rail Spectacular. This is a package where it's a 12-day package. You spend some time in Sydney. You take the Indian Pacific across to Adelaide. You'll go to Kangaroo Island, see some wildlife there, then jump on the train up to Alice Springs on the Gone, see the Red Centre, and then fly to the Great Barrier Reef. So that is a fantastic train journey. I'd say that'd be one of my most favorite ones to recommend. If it's walking and hiking and soft adventure, we have a variety of different types of walks and hikes. In New Zealand, we've got the Milford Track, we've got the Hollyford. You can go hiking in the Abel Tasman. Tasmania has some famous walks as well. One of my most favorite one is called the Wakalina, and that is a walk within Tasmania with an Indigenous guide who tells you about the Indigenous background behind the area. On the right there is Freixenet Lodge and Wineglass Bay. So if it's walking, hiking, whether it's 3 to 5 days, we can do some guided walks as well, or combining them. And the unique wildlife. Australia has so much to offer. The top left-hand corner there, that is something that a lot of people don't know about. That's a quokka, and that only lives on the island of Rottnest out in the west coast. It's a little marsupial. We've got the Tasmanian devil. Even if you want to go cage diving with great whites, you can do that in southern Australia. You can even cuddle a koala, and there's some amazing koala experiences in Australia. One of my most favorite is in just outside of Melbourne, and it's a research station that takes you out, and they track koalas, and you see them in the wild, and they teach you how each of the koalas have their noses are all different, and it's like their thumbprint. There is the feeding of the wild dolphins that come in. There's wombats throughout Australia. This is a shot at Australia Zoo, one of the amazing places to visit on the Sunshine Coast. There's those little penguins in, you can see those both within New Zealand as well as in Australia. And then of course they're swimming with the whale sharks in Western Australia, swimming with these gentle giants. That's what I did the last time I was in Australia, and it was so memorable. One of my most favorite wildlife experiences is on Kangaroo Island. This is in South Australia, just outside of Adelaide. It's known as the zoo with no fences. You can walk along the beach with the seals, see kangaroos, koalas in the wild. Small group touring is the best way to go here, or private touring. A phenomenal destination. If it's food and wine that you're interested in, Australia has it. There's a variety of different food and wine, but it's also craft breweries. It's also dining experiences, that paddock to plate experiences. When you're in Ayers Rock, we can do something called the Sound of Silence dinner, where you're dining underneath the canopy of the rainforest of the outback, the southern sky. And your destination experts will work with your CAA agent to infuse these different experiences into your trip to Australia. Indigenous culture is amazing in Australia. The Aboriginal culture is one of the oldest living cultures, over 50,000 years old. And one of the best places to see this is in the outback and up in the Northern Territory, seeing this Aboriginal rock art, hearing the folklore, just seeing the outback. There's so much culture and so many stories to hear. Another interesting area in the outback is Coober Pedy, where they live underground. As we finish here, we have the Great Barrier Reef along the coast. There's the rainforest as well as the reef. Along the coast, up at the very north in Cairns there, that's the closest point to go out to the reef for day tours. But then down in the middle area, we have an area called the Whitsundays, and there's a variety of different islands that you can go to. And then down in the south, the reef isn't so much, we're past the reef at that point, but there's some wonderful coastal experiences. So that's where we're gonna finish up today. So here are the Whitsundays. There's a variety of different islands. There on the right is Whitehaven Beach, which is this beautiful white silicon sand. You can do a day tour, or you can go to Heart Reef. Great way to spend an anniversary, or hey, do a proposal. To explore the reef, you can do some cruising, liveaboards. You can sleep on the reef as well, or small vessel cruising as well. So there's so many different ways to experience the reef. And as I said, there's a variety of different islands as well. The last program I want to talk about is our long stay program, or our Live Like a Local. And this is where you can spend 1, 2, or 3 months in Australia or in New Zealand. And they're self-contained accommodation in the Gold Coast or in the Sunshine, north or south of Brisbane, or just north of Sydney, or in New Zealand, we have the Bay of Plenty. So these are long stays where you can escape those terrible Canadian winters, and they are most popular. I would always suggest maybe doing a little bit of touring in January and then settle into your accommodation in early February, and then you get to take advantage of the low season rate because the Aussie and Kiwi holidays are over. And I just want to finish with a couple of deals. This one here, the Aussie highlights include Sydney. It goes out to Adelaide and out to wonderful Kangaroo Island before going up to Cairns. And then, of course, we have our classic Rock and Reef, which is Sydney, the Red Centre, and the Reef. With everything that Goway does, it's completely customizable, so you can add in any of those experiences that we talked about today. We'll work with you and your CAA consultant to create the absolute perfect trip. And that was an extremely quick run through Australia and New Zealand. Now, I do have a short video here. I hope it'll work all right. One of our friends from Rainforest Station, this is one of our cultural experiences. He was going to do a boomerang demonstration for you. However, he thought you might all be sad because you wouldn't be able to practice, that he was kind of scared you might be throwing your plates around. So anyway, he thought he would do a demonstration of a didgeridoo for you. So I'm just going to play that for you. Do this. There we go.
Good day, everyone. My name is Damien. I work at the Rainforest Station, Kangaroo. Just going to give you a little demonstration on the didgeridoo, the yiggy yiggy. Okay, so how to play this instrument. There are 4 steps. So the first step, we vibrate the lips just for a simple sound. Okay. Loose lips. Okay, the second step, to play for a long time, we've got to circle the breathing. So we breathe in while we blow out at the same time. Okay? Circulation. Right, some good players can play up to a good half an hour straight just by using that technique. Okay, the third step is the voice box for the animal noises.
I'm not sure that you can hear, but this is one of our friends on that and they'll do some demonstrations of throwing the boomerang, playing the didgeridoo. They also have some koalas up in the area as well.
And the fourth and final step,
Queensland
we use
is one
our
of the
tongue
very few areas
for the rhythm of a beat
you can
through
cuddle
the
a koala.
didgeridoo.
So while you're up in
So
the
click
area,
it up and down a couple of times just to get a rhythm of a beat
that
through the
signature
didgeridoo.
a photo home with you and experience the rainforest.
All right, so that's your 4 basic techniques. I'll put them together now, and I'll play a certain animal. I want to see
So
if these guys can get
Trish
the
is
animal
coming
that
back.
I'm going to play through the didgeridoo.
Do we have any Trish?
Alright. Did you guess it? Well, if you didn't guess it, well, that was a kookaburra.
Oh, I think the video
Okay,
is
guys,
almost
that's
over.
me, Damien Faba, from Palmagiri Rainforest Station. Have a good day.
Oh, I see some. We are a Canadian company. We do quote in both U.S. and Canadian. So all of our pricing is in both Canadian and U.S. The great thing is the exchange rate between Canada and U.S. Or the exchange rate between Canada and the Australian dollars is very, very good. So our Canadian dollar actually goes quite far. My apologies for the quoting in US. We do quote in both. So, but all of our pricing is in Canadian. If you're from Canada, we'll quote in Canadian. There we go. Trish, Melissa.
Hi, thank you so much, Shirley. That was a wonderful presentation. It makes me want to go back to Australia and New Zealand. It's such a wonderful destination. I just a quick reminder, the travel show is continuing until tomorrow. We have 5 more presentations if you're willing, interested in signing up for those. And also, please feel free to visit our website for any other upcoming virtual events. But I'd really love to thank Shirley Rourke from Goway for that phenomenal presentation, and Melissa for your kind words on your experience. And I'd like to thank everyone else that has attended the show today. It was a wonderful reliving, looking at all those slides. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.